what if they decide to fire? And all I could tell to her that it's gonna be all right, because I mean, if we decided to go, then we just have to stay strong, and it's gonna be all right.
You're chasing something different than I. No more casting shadows on your every smile. Every day feels...
My name is Gabriele, I'm 18. I was born in Italy, but when I was 2, I moved to Ukraine, in a small town near Kyiv, and graduated high school in that town and tried to enter to the Kyiv Art and Design University. But it's not happened, and I just started working in Kyiv.
I mainly work as a documentary filmmaker and cinematographer. So I work on other people's projects, but I also shoot my own documentaries. I have a project that I've done on Ukraine a couple of years ago. It was a video installation with multiple screens, and it pretty much talked about my experience with Russia's, annexation of Crimea and occupation of 2 eastern regions. So that was a project I've done in Ukraine. I also done a shorter documentary, back in New Zealand with the Tokelau community, about their relocation from the islands to New Zealand. And I think one of the things that makes me able to connect to different people around the world is this sense of dislocation and longing for home. And I absolutely feel it right now, being away from Ukraine. And you don't know if, our hometown in the southeast, in Zaporizhia region, was occupied in the first day, and it's still an occupation. So being here in a safe place, you almost feel like, will there be something to return to? Because you don't know, will the town still stand? What are you gonna find there? So it's almost this weird feeling of you'd want to rush back home as soon as you can, but at the same time, I'm not ready to confront what I might find there. Honestly, just taking some time to process everything that happened, and also not to put too much pressure, thinking that you have to figure out where to go, what, do you need to apply for a job, where, this whole situation, because it's been, I didn't realize how much affected I was by everything that happened until I got to safety and, a sense of normality. And I can't comprehend that life here just goes on as normal and terrible, terrible things are happening back home. So I'm just trying, to not put unnecessary pressure and just take one day at a time, and hopefully, things will get better.
How did you leave Ukraine, and what kind of people did you meet abroad? So it was a spontaneous decision. We just pack our bags about 20 minutes and run to our railway station, and by trains get to the Kyiv, and in Kyiv we take a train to Lviv. So in Lviv was a lot of people, and we just know that today we can't leave Ukraine, and we just take a bus to Ogoro and cross border with Slovakia in that day. And I hear in a train, I hear about Ireland, and just say to my mom, why not? So we can take a plane and flew. I feel it's a really right decision to move to Ireland, because I meet here a lot of people that's just citizens of Ireland, and it just helping everyone, and it's very opening people and very kind.
So I was in our occupied town of Yakimivka in the Zaporizhia region till about mid-April, because I couldn't leave earlier. It was very difficult to leave. The Russians weren't letting people out, and then I urgently had somehow get to Kyiv for personal reasons. So, I said to my dad, I was like, look, I feel like I should leave, and he supported me, and he also said that, yeah, I feel like I'd feel so much better if you were somewhere safer, because he wasn't sure how they're gonna behave if Ukrainian army is gonna do an offense, and they'll have, to start trekking back, especially after seeing what kind of war crimes they've done in Bucha, Irpin, Hostomel. So he was like, just you have to go. So there was a driver that takes people to a regional city, and I found him. So, in a couple of days, he said, well, we can try and make it through. So I went with a driver. It was me, and it was another young lady who was evacuating herself and her 2 kids, a 9-year-old boy and an 8-month baby girl. So it was, 4 of us in the car, and we passed through 18 Russian checkpoints until we reached the Ukraine's controlled territory and saw Ukrainian armed forces and their first checkpoint. And I just, all I was thinking is that, is this really what we have to go through to get to safety? There is this young mom with an 8-month-old baby in the car. She was terrified, and as we were going through, because it's not an official evacuation route, it's not a green corridor as they call them, you just leave at your own risk. And I mean, we've seen everything. There were, Russian armed cars bringing missiles in the area. There were columns of tanks driving towards us, and all of their barrels were pointing at the other side, so at the car, so they're facing you. And there was a moment, she said, because you see it in the news, she said, what if they decide to fire? And all I could tell to her that it's going to be all right, because if we decided to go, then we just have to stay strong, and it's going to be all right. And at every checkpoint, they stop you, they check the car, they check your things, you're being humiliated, they check your documents, and it's just it's awful. And at some point we were driving, and you could see the mines on the sides of the road. So yeah, when we reached, when we saw a Ukrainian flag and when we saw a military, everyone just started crying. People were like, we're safe and we're home. And it sounds totally insane. You're living your home, but it's not your home anymore because it's occupied. Yeah, so then we got to Zaporizhia, and from there I was able to take a train to Kyiv, and I've spent around a couple of weeks in Kyiv, and then I flew to Ireland to stay with a good friend who's been saying, since day one, once you can, please come, you can stay here as long as you need. Don't worry about anything, we want you safe. So yeah, that's my story of just getting out of there. And I understand why people leave, and why people leave from cities and places that are not occupied because of the rockets and missiles. And when I was in Kyiv, a neighborhood in the center, an apartment building was hit by a Russian missile, first floor. A woman died. So what if the next time it's you? Yeah.
I just heard one story. It was near my little town. Russians tell you can leave green corridor, and people pack bags and wanna to move from this place, and a lot of people kills. Yeah. They kill a lot of people.
Yeah, that was a worry. I was worried. I was like, what if they're gonna shell civilian cars, because that's happened already. And my dad was like, well, because if you decided to go, you have to be strong, because you also can't show that you're afraid of them, because it only makes it worse. But it's just something why do people that have done nothing wrong have to go through this, evacuating themselves, evacuating their kids, leaving everything behind. I came with a little backpack, and it's fine. Things don't matter, properties, houses, cars don't matter, but it's just, I think what's difficult is that living and knowing that you might not be back, or there will be nothing to come back to. Yeah.
I just say to my grandma and grandpa and my brother,
They're still there.
That's don't trust to green corridors.
No.
It's just stay that you know, and just don't try.
My father is still there, and I haven't been able to get in contact with him for the last 10 days because the Ukrainian mobile network and internet was shut down by the Russian forces. So I don't know how he is, and he's not responding, and no one else in the town is responding, and it's really like it's awful because in this day and age, like you talk to people all the time, like you message them, and now it's like you don't know. So yeah, my dad is still there, and it's difficult. Like you don't, and it's also difficult for people who are not so willing to leave, or who are so afraid to just leave everything behind, and like things like, you know, you're attached to things, especially if you're like older generation. Like no one wants to be like uprooted at that age.
I was shocked because my brother called me and like, yes, it's okay, I'm fine. I just read the message and it's not fine, it's not okay. And he don't want to tell to me and to my mother, because my mother is a very emotional woman, and just he don't want to make her stress, I think. So just I know what's happening, but my mother knows. I
Do you also feel like there are some things that you experience, or like, you know, maybe your mom experienced because of everything that's happening, that sometimes you don't like, it's not visible to other people? Like for instance, just like I had, you know, like having nightmares, or like not being able to sleep, or like, you know, you go from being okay to like bursting into tears for no reason. Like you're just so, emotionally unstable.
We just, the first weeks that we leave Ukraine, we just afraid for every loud sound, every loud sound. And in our hotel, like, elevator was really loud working, and just, I'm afraid every time that elevator just going up or down, and I like, oh my god. Now we don't have that problem, but sometimes I see nightmares with that situation, and like,
because of the air raid sirens back
yeah,
home.
No, I'm not shocked. I think now, because I know that now I'm in a safety place, and just I don't have a problem with my safety, but I'm afraid from my part of family that's in Ukraine. So, and just that that it's starting the situation. Just my my friend was in Poltava, and in the first day, Poltava have a dangerous place, and she called me like, I don't know, like, I meet you, and I met you. I don't know, like,
Survive?
I don't know, like, I survive or no, and I just call her about a couple of minutes, and just her phone is died, but I don't know that.
Yeah, I had that
so
same. I had a close friend who was in Kyiv, and we didn't have a connection for a couple of days back in my region. And then when I got a connection, I just started, you know, all the messages that she sent through were like starting popping up, and she was like hiding in a bomb shelter in Kyiv. And I called her, and you know, you ask how are you, but what you really mean is that, like, are you alive? Like, can you survive till tomorrow? And no. But I also, you know, all the noise. I was going for a walk just outside of Limerick another day, and there was just a helicopter, and I was like my heart skipped a beat, because it just triggers you. All I can think of is Russian helicopters and fighter jets flying above my town, and I could see them from my kitchen window. So I just ultimately think about that, and I know I'm safe, but it just, like, it brings all of that anxiety and memories.
You're chasing something different than I. No more casting shadows on your every smile.